Thank you, Chris. I don't think I'm on. Are you on?
Hello?
I don't think I'm on. Oh, I'm on. Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Wow, we're here because we love conversations.
Meaningful conversations.
Colorful conversations.
Provocative conversations.
We really look at that as an art.
And we're excited to have a conversation today about a subject that's really dear to both of our hearts, creative parenting, and you all get to eavesdrop in on that.
And one of the, everybody, this is Shannon Bindler.
Hello. And this is Sophie Chiche.
Hello.
And a little tidbit about Sophie, she hates italics.
I do. Ooh, I hate italics. And one of the things that Shannon really can't stand is when people go to Starbucks wearing their pajamas.
I really can't. It really bothers me. And something that I love about Sophie, she's really a hub of connection. I dare say if we're all 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, that we're probably 2 degrees from Sophie Chiche.
Hi, Agapi. Hi, Craig.
See what I mean?
And one of the things I love about Shannon, one of the ways we connected when we first met, is she spends all her money on self-help and shoes.
Girls got to have a good pair of shoes. Sophie is the mother of Leah. She's a 17-year-old young woman.
And Shannon is the mother of Pearl, a 7-year-old younger woman.
Much younger.
And very often in the course of our friendship and the course of raising our girls, we've had these conversations about how do we raise children that are living out loud, maybe without needing to come to a conference like this, because as the children come in, they already live out loud. So what do we do to get out of the way so they actually get to do that? And so we noticed that one of the ways that it happens is by small steps. It's not one giant leap, rather small steps.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a hiker. I don't know if there's any other trailblazers in the room. But
there's some.
I like that. I like to hear that. We are in Malibu. So, you know, when I get to a mountain that I'm about to hike, I never stand at the bottom and look at the top of the peak and say, I'm going to just take one big leap and get to the top. I mean, it seems a little silly to even think that way. But I think sometimes we maybe think of parenting in that way. But really, parenting is a series of small, dedicated steps that over time, you know, maybe we eventually raise our child.
And interestingly, this idea of small, deliberate step became really important as I was looking at parenting myself. When I started looking at what was I given as a child that worked, what didn't work, and what are the pieces that I could deconstruct and keep if they worked for me and didn't, which is one of the ways I look at parenting my child. I used it for myself, and some of the pieces I was given didn't work so well.
Well, what didn't work for you?
Well, one of the things that I remember growing up was labeling. Like, kids are labeled a lot, particularly in Europe, but I think it happens. Does it happen here too? People are lazy and people are, you know, they're shy and maybe they're very smart, you know, and the other ones think they're not. In my household, my brother was the creative one and I was the smart one. Well, meanwhile, I grew up thinking I was really not very creative and my brother thinks he's an idiot. So that didn't work so well.
I mean, I can personally really relate to this. I don't know, can anyone else relate to having a label at some point in their lives? Yeah, apparently so.
Mm-hmm.
I know right now we've been going through a similar situation with my daughter. She's very, very sensitive and can cry easily. And she was starting to get labeled as a crybaby. And this was very upsetting to her. And so my husband and I, we started to have conversations with each other and a conversation with her about what was sort of behind this label. And really, it's that she's sensitive. You know, she's really empathetic. She's very compassionate. She has a very strong sense of justice. She doesn't like it if someone's being hurt or being mistreated. She wants to stand up for them. She just feels really deeply. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we think is actually a really great quality. So through these conversations that we kept having, there was an event at school, and all of the kids were given a sign, each going to go up individually, and they were going to hold up their name. This is the actual sign. And so my daughter walked up, she had her sign, and on the other side, they were supposed to write what they thought that they'd really love about themselves. And so my daughter wrote, I don't know if in the back you can see it, but I love that I have a sensitive soul. And this is so meaningful because we knew that the conversation that we had taken something that she was judging herself about, that others were judging her for, and she was able to really see that and own it as something that made her special and something that she loved about herself.
That's one of the things that I find so beautiful about this idea of living out loud, because it is not so much the volume, as Rabbi was saying earlier. It is more about the congruence for us, about what's going on inside of us and what actually gets manifested. So is there an actual direct line between what I'm feeling and what I'm actually experiencing? And this, to me, is a really good manifestation of that.
Yeah.
And one of the other ways that it manifests for us, it's this idea that we've lost contact with ourselves. Like, we don't really listen to ourselves. And I don't know for you, when I was growing up, there was a lot of, put a sweater on, but I'm not cold. But put a sweater on, but I'm not cold. Put a sweater on. And it's like, finally, you put the sweater on, or at the dinner table, eat. It's time to eat. I'm not hungry. But other times maybe I would be hungry and they wouldn't let me eat because it wasn't lunchtime. And it's like, this is really confusing. And the codes as we grow up get messed up a lot. And so one of the ways that we really like to look at parenting our children is helping us, supporting them in really listening to within themselves to those codes and trust that when they say something like, I'm not cold, actually believe that, as opposed to, shoving it on them.
Yeah. It reminds me of when we were at your house. Sophie has a garden, and in the sort of the back of the garden is a big rock. It's not a huge rock, but it's a decent-sized rock. Mm-hmm. And Pearl was sort of playing around it, and she ran over and she was like, "Mommy, can I climb the rock?" And being the parent, my sort of initial reaction was to either give her permission, like, "Yes, you can climb that rock," or "No, you can't climb that rock." I think that sort of happens, but I held back and decided to use it as an opportunity for her to really check in with herself. And I said, do you think you can climb the rock? And she said, yeah, I think I can. I said, well, if you're scared, do you want me to come over and stand next to you, make sure it's safe? She's like, no, I think I can do it. I think I'll be all right. And so I said, well, just as you're doing it, as you take a step, really take a second to check in with yourself. Do you feel like you can go further? Do you feel like it's safe? If not, come back down. She said, okay, I can do that. I said, just remember, check in with yourself. So she runs up, and Sophie and I were sitting and sort of watching her, and she'd go up a little ways, and I could see her just sort of stopping, like, okay, I think it feels good. Mm-hmm. And she kept going, and in a few minutes, she was all the way to the top and waving and ran back down. And it was just a small, like we were talking about before, a little small step, but it was an opportunity for her to really check in with that inner compass and see what felt right for her.
One of the things that I witnessed you do that day that I thought was really powerful was you didn't position yourself as you had a solution for her. It was more, let me ask you questions so that you get to check in with yourself, which I don't know for you as adults, but it took me a while to get to that.
Yeah.
And it's because of those codes that get messed up as we grow up. My daughter last year was in New York. She's 17, so safety is a different issue than 7. Not that climbing rocks can definitely have security involved to it, but 17, New York on her own. She goes to Broadway one night and calls me after the play and says, how do I go home? And I'm like, I don't know. How does it feel? Is it safe? Is it dark? Is it, it's midnight in New York? And she had never taken the subway. And I said, do you feel safe doing that? And she said, no, not really. And I said, okay, do you want me to find a friend? I have people in New York. Maybe someone can come and pick you up. She said, no, I think that's too much, but I think I could take a cab. Great. She gets on a cab. The next day calls me, goes to Broadway again. She's kind of a Broadway nut. She's there the next day, calls me again and says, tonight I feel pretty safe. I think I could take the subway. And she did, and it went really well. And that was really one of those moments where you kind of see that, a kid really takes on their own confidence and their own way to trust the world and move on with that. And that was really a powerful moment.
It's amazing. I mean, like you sort of said, climbing a rock at 7 is a little bit different than taking the subway in New York City at 17.
Right, and one of the things that's striking when we were raising her around 13, 14, I started noticing that parents had been so controlling with their kids. What do you eat? Who are you friends with? How do you dress? Where do you go to school? What time do we go? What movie? What not movie? All of that gets decided by parents, and then they turn 13, 14, and now we're asking them to make decisions that are pretty big decisions, like being safe around drugs, and if they're going to have sex, to be really safe with that. And yet they haven't been trained to actually make those decisions for themselves. They've been controlled all along, and now they're thrown in life with things that are pretty big deals and not really prepared for that. And if we're not having these conversations with them, like, who's going to have that? And so really have these meaningful conversations. It's important.
I mean, it's so fantastic for me to listen to everything that Leia has been going through, and to have this conversation in our life. And I just know I learned so much as a parent through these conversations.
So basically, whether you have teenagers or you don't, whether you have children or you don't, have these conversations.
Have meaningful conversations.
Colorful conversations.
Provocative conversations.
Just have them. Have them with yourself.
Have them with your children.
Have them.
Have them.
Period. Thank you. Thank you.